Sox in the basement.
I'm the Sox nerd with this week's White Sox Stumper. Who finished second to Frank Thomas in the 1995 Home Run Derby in Texas? I'll have the answer at the end of my spiel later in the podcast.
Back in the studio, and to be honest with you, after 16 days away on the most massive vacation I have taken in a decade, it's kind of good to be home, bud. It's good to see you, and it's good to have real microphones. I want to start off the show. I know you keep saying don't apologize for a vacation, but I mean, I didn't like the fact that I was on Zoom and speaker. I had brought my mobile studio and microphones. There was an issue, and I would have had to take off like a whole day from a Disney park to fix the thing. And I just made the decision of we're just going to have some bad audio. So I apologize for it. But I mean, this was, as the kids described, their best vacation they had ever been on, which I think was a telling thing for a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, an 11-year-old who had been down to Disney before. And they were like the trip with just dad. This is the first big trip we've done since the divorce in the last couple of years. They were ecstatic. It was just a nice, fun, calm, no drama, wonderful freaking trip. And I can't say enough about how much fun that we had. So my apologies for the bad audio over the last couple of days. I think you did a great job holding down the fort with the Sox Nerd. I like that show. If people missed it, check it out. It's a little different. I know I'm not on it, but it is good stuff with the nerd, and he's on this show, as you heard as we kicked off, and he'll have his regular segment later on in the show. But thank you so much for holding down the fort while I was away and allowing me to just relax for a couple of weeks.
No, I mean, look at it this way. Something always goes wrong on a vacation. So if what went wrong was audio related for this show,
it was all the
that's
shows.
A beautiful thing.
The EP podcast, I did segments while I was drinking around the world at Epcot from my phone, and I didn't have the setting rights, so the video version is a little grainy, and I need to buy some new equipment so I get better audio if I ever use my phone. I mean, I learned what to do the next time I take a trip, because I'm going to Bourbon and Beyond in the fall, and I'm going to Spain, where my daughter is going to be studying at some point during her year. She's spending a year in Spain studying architecture with the University of Illinois, and she's going to Barcelona, and I plan to go there for several weeks, if not a full month. And I learned on this trip what I need to do so we don't ever have those problems again. And while I was gone, there were a lot of things I didn't get a chance to talk about. So there's so much to get into on this show. The Rock Chalowski selection and everything that surrounded it. The new schedule is out as I'm sitting here right now. They have to figure out what they're going to go do in the trade market. They did make a trade. They had a great draft from what people said. They're currently the number 2 seed if the season ended at the All-Star break and would have a bye with a division win and the 2 seed in the postseason. I don't know if they're going to do that. There's so much we need to get into. Miguel Vargas had a home run in the All-Star game that I think landed all of 3 or 4 minutes ago. It's been up there for several days. That was an absolute bomb, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Philly fans aren't even booing.
No,
you know,
I mean,
that's a bomb. Philly fans are like, oh man.
Philly fans are like, did he hit that into the second deck? I mean, we're not going to win, but right. Wow. Why wasn't this guy in the home run derby? I mean, Murakami did well, right? In the derby.
He did good. He did good.
And you know, that's a very different thing. It's a very different animal to hit in the derby. You could have made an argument if Colson
considering his rust,
he had a lot of rust. I mean, you could have made an argument if Colson Montgomery would have made the team, let him hit in the derby. He's the quickest. I think he's tied with 3 other left-handed hitters for the most home runs in their first 162 games with 44. Yeah. And so that's impressive. And Vargas hit a ton of home runs this year. I mean, he's got 21 home runs. In fact, I was looking today and I was thinking to myself, who's my MVP of the first half? And I have a problem because I have 2 guys that I can make a strong argument for. My first
make the argument.
Well, okay, my first argument is Miguel Vargas. And I love the fact that I get to do this. After trashing the trade, after not being happy with his first year, after telling you all that, hey, he had a good month in the month of May that bled into June last year, and then he may have had a few good weeks in the back half, but there was a lot of bad in there, and he needs to get better. And not being very confident about him. But I kept saying, I want to be wrong. I am glad I am wrong. I think the thing that I never took into account was the possibility of the White Sox can actually develop a player. because they never did that with the old regime, right?
No,
Kenny
no,
Williams,
no, no.
Kenny Williams could spot somebody and be
Allegedly.
like, that's an all-star right there. And then he could put him on a team. Strangely, he only had one run through the postseason where he won an actual series, and that was '05 where he wins 3 of them. And that's because he had Ozzie Guillen as his manager and a bunch of guys having career years. And 2005 was amazing. But like the general White Sox way was, we got a guy and we're just going to watch him and he should be okay. And we don't have any plan to make him any better. And we don't know how to make him any better. And as long as he stays healthy, though, don't worry about it. This is very different with this regime. And I didn't know that. Okay. I had not gotten enough from this front office to know they could do that. But now I'm very confident in them because Miguel Vargas hitting .245 at the break with a .355 on base percentage, a .493 slugging for an .848 OPS. I know you can make the argument Murakami would have been the MVP of the first half if he would have played it, but he got injured. And I got to tell you something. The guy that goes out has 20 doubles and 21 home runs, has driven in 59 for you. That you can make the argument he's the MVP. He's stolen 11 bases on 13 attempts. Like that's crazy. He's second best, second most steals on the team. Like he's a leader. The other guy though that I would argue is that Tristan Peters, who also joined him, and that was a great story. Hits for the cycle, makes the All-Star game. I was standing in line, I think, for Velocicoaster at Universal reading that, which is the greatest roller coaster I've ever been on. I think number 3 in the world. I rode it 3 times. Every time I rode it, I thought I was going to die because it's just a lap bar. It's a lap bar, and the whole coaster is designed to make you feel as though it's going to throw you out of the seat.
Which is kind of what you want from a roller coaster, but also at the same time,
But you know how you get those warnings, like don't be on this if you're pregnant or if you have heart problems or all these other things? This is the first time I've actually believed you would die on this roller coaster if you had any of those problems. Like I always felt like they were covering their butt. No, the whole time. Like I finished the first time and my chest was like, buddy, we were thinking about having a grabber right there. That was scary. And then I rode it 2 more times. Which
is why I live vicariously through you on these things.
You would die on that ride. Tristan Peters plays 91 games for you. His OBP is only 1 point below Vargas with a .354 instead of a .355. His slugging, .478, just a few points below Vargas. His OPS, .832, but he brings a .301 batting average. He has 20 doubles as well. He just doesn't have the home runs. And he's locking down center field with spectacular defense. You got him for cash considerations.
My favorite player, cash considerations.
Right. This may be the best story on the 2026 Chicago White Sox. I'm sure that people would argue, but I got to say, when you give those stats and you understand how they acquired him and what he has done, a guy who didn't even think he was going to make the team, and he has done that in the first half. Please let this be real. This is a great story. Imagine if he does the same thing in the second half of the season. This team is a playoff team. If he can continue doing that in the second half of the season, that's my other argument. I'm going to let you jump in and give yours. But first, big ups to the proud sponsors of Sox in the Basement, Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Switch to a new age of life. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. Hyatt works with your insurance, has 0% financing for qualified individuals, and they have the latest and greatest in CPAP machines. If you're unhappy with your vendor, switch now, get supplies directly mailed to you, and test it out at their showroom. There's so many shapes and sizes. They're going to find the one that's comfortable, that's running quiet, that fits your lifestyle. See all at hhme.com. You can even purchase at hhme.com and learn about the product online. Go there today. Your thoughts on the MVP of the first half?
Well, I'm going to say that I will pat myself on the back because I was excited about the Tristan Peters acquisition. I kept saying his name in spring training, and I think people might have blown me off because I was in the hospital and mildly drugged. But I think he can keep it up in the second half. And I think Vargas can keep it up in the second half too, because I got to say, one of my favorite things watching a White Sox game now is when Miguel Vargas, when he knows he really got one, the way his swing finishes and the way he kind of looks at it, it's kind of becoming one of my favorite things to watch in a White Sox game is Look back at what he did against Wrobleski in the All-Star game. That swing, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Um, from a number standpoint, I think he's defensible, but I think from an attitude standpoint, Sam Antonacci's arrival uh, started to turn a little bit of something in this team, especially when he got into the leadoff spot and Chase Mydroth got moved down. I think Antonacci deserves some consideration for an MVP.
See that. I can see that. I thought about him. I mean, he has 799 OPS. He's just off of 800. He's hitting 287. He gets on base at a 381 clip. That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got a clutch thing.
Yeah, his slugging is not as good, so that's why he doesn't rank up as high as the other two guys, because he's only got 12 doubles. He's got 2 triples. He's got 6 home runs. He just doesn't get as many extra base hits, but he has stolen 13 bases. He leads the team in it. He's been caught stealing, though, 5 times. He leads the team in caught stealing as well. He is a spark plug that you don't want him to mature completely. You don't want him to get cautious.
No.
When he plays wild, that's great. I would like it, though, when he gets to second base and the right fielder already has the ball, or the center fielder has the ball, maybe don't try to go to third. Look at your third base coach.
Just every once in a while.
Just learn a few things. It's your first half of baseball. You haven't even had a complete first half because you weren't here at the beginning of the year. That's all I'm asking for. Ed, we got an email, and as you were talking about that Tristan Peters call, I remembered that somebody sent me something on the trip, so I looked it up. Griff Perry wrote at soxinthebasement.com, "What's up, guys? Chris, I hope you enjoy your trip at Universal. That place is a blast. You may be broke when you get back, but it's worth it. Hopefully you got the fast pass or whatever." No, I did not get the fast pass because Universal charges you like $200 a ticket. So I bought 4 of those. And then for the fast pass, it's an additional $200 a ticket. So you would have spent $1,600 on one day at the park for a family of 4. And I was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're standing in line. We use the app. I'm lucky I have older kids. So we use the app. So like if all of a sudden it was like, this park here, this side of the park is kind of empty. I was like, okay, we're running over there. And I don't have to push a stroller and move little children around. So that worked out for me. So we were fine. Rest of this email, though, that's why I brought it up. Just wanted to say, Griff says, just want to say Ed made a good call at the beginning of the year. When he said he liked Tristan Peters, I think he was the first one I heard say he was optimistic about him. The guy has been great. Looking forward to the second half. Go Sox. So I wanted you to know that Griff wrote in while I was on the trip to give you your roses because you were the guy. You were the first person and maybe the only person for a while in the entire media sphere. Podcasters, bloggers, the mainstream media. You beat the Chuckster and Ozzy. You beat everybody on this one. You had Tristan Peters when they had acquired him for cash considerations, and you said, I like this guy. When he was in spring training, you were like, I like this guy. This is your dark horse to make the team and contribute. And man, has he done it. So I mean, you deserve that. You deserve it, Ed. You killed it on that. Where I was wrong about Miguel Vargas and happily wrong about Miguel Vargas.
We both were.
I know, but I was more yelling about him.
You were.
People accused me of just having a hate for the man. I didn't have a hate. I was just pointing out facts, and he had never shown he could do this. I think the White Sox fixed Miguel Vargas. I think the White Sox.
He's admitted it.
Right.
He's admitted it.
You know what?
In public, Miguel Vargas has said that as a member of the Dodgers, and when he got to the White Sox, he didn't like playing the game of baseball anymore. And now he's back. He loves it again.
And now
that's a huge difference.
He's in a clip from the All-Star game. I swear I cannot remember who was doing it. It was one of the more mainstream guys. And they were asking with Ohtani and Judge not available to you, which player's skill set do you wish you could have for a week? And they were asking All-Stars. And I don't remember what Tristan Peters said because he answered it too. But when they got to Miguel Vargas, he goes, Luis Arias, because I want to hit over 300. And I got chills when I saw that because this guy's not done yet. Like and they have changed everything in his mindset. And I think that's incredible. For exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest. No high pressure sales, not in your kitchen. You are in their showroom. Full examples, glass designs on display, no pictures in a book. See it in person. And the owner's there, right? He's a huge Sox fan too, so you're going to get into a great conversation about the White Sox. He's got season tickets, all right. And then there's an owner on site, and they make sure to get everything done. with their own employees. They're not farming out the work. They have their system. They have their method. They back up their work. They don't farm it out. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985 with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. I'm telling you right now, now's the time to consider doing upgrades. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is located a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com. And I think
with all the smoke in the air, if your windows are leaking right now for sure.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. It was 95 to 100 degrees every day when I was down in Florida. And I get back here and it's the same thing. But there's this horrible smoke coming from these fires. I didn't even know what was going on until somebody told me about it today because I've been out of the loop for the last couple of weeks. But I keep comparing it to my time in Bakersfield, California, which was the most miserable place I ever lived in my entire life. It was the only place I ever had to use an inhaler. I was never diagnosed with having asthma, but the air quality was so bad for the 2 years I was doing rock radio at KRFR FM in Bakersfield, California, that I would leave on the weekends to go live on the coast. I drive out to San Luis Obispo. I go to Morro Bay. I would sometimes go down to Santa Monica Pier. I just find a cheap motel along the coast, and I'd hole up there for 2 days and just kind of live as cheap as I could, but in good air. Because I had to use an inhaler when I was in Bakersfield, especially in the summer. It'd be 122 degrees, and it would look like it looks right now with the haze. But that was just pollution. That's what it feels like for me. I woke up.
This brought you by the Bakersfield Tourism Commission.
You know what? Forget them. If I die and go to hell,
it'll be Bakersfield.
I'll be a Baker. That's how I'm going to know. I'll be an old man. And I'll die with my children at my bedside, all the good stuff, right? Or I'll die on one of these roller coasters. And then suddenly I'll wake up and I'll be back in Bakersfield with the Kern River, which isn't actually a river. It's just a dry riverbed that runs through the middle of town. It's empty. It's a desert. It's just a desert riverbed that doesn't exist. It only exists when they get rain once or twice a year, and it fills up like crazy and they worry about it flooding. The rest of the time, there's actually no river, the Kern River. And I will be there in that hellish landscape with this kind of weather for the rest of my existence. That's why I go to church every Sunday. That's why I got to go to confession for skipping church on Sunday because we were at the parks. Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to end up in Bakersfield or hell, interchangeable places.
That's where the Hotel California is that the Eagles sang about. I'm pretty sure you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
And my other favorite All-Star moment was, of course, Pat McAfee interviewing
Oh, God.
Munetaka Murakami.
If Strokin isn't his walk-up music when he gets back on the field, what are we even doing here, folks?
I love this team. This team is so much fun. Yeah. And it brings me to something that I answered today on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Nick Murkowski, who's in the podcast sphere. We've hit him on. It's been a while. We probably should get him on sometime again.
Yeah, talk to Nick in a bit.
Nick put out a tweet where he said the White Sox will make the postseason because blank, and the White Sox will miss the postseason because blank. And I answered with the Sox in the Basement account. The answer to both questions is the same. They are young and don't know any better. And that's really what the entire second half is going to be. They're young and they don't know how to do this. And it all changes in the second half. It becomes more intense. You're going to have a swoon. You're going to have the dog days. You got to find a way to get through it if you're going to make the postseason. And they're also so young, they don't know they're not supposed to make the postseason.
Right.
And you have now the possibility that this team could break your heart. And you know what? Even if they do, guess what? This is better than anything you expected this year. This is way earlier than we expected it. And they'll be back next year and they're going to be good. And Murakami has been quoted at the All-Star game as saying he wants to remain with the White Sox for a long, long time. So Chris Getz, get it done. And I think he will. I really do. Yeah. I think he will. Okay. And for a player to come out and say that as boldly and as strongly as he said it, I think an extension is coming. They may be waiting until after the CBA is over. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their strategy is, but I think he stays. Okay. They'll be back. So there is a possibility for disappointment. But there's also the possibility that they make it to the postseason. There's a possibility that they win the division. And then once they get in, there's a possibility they get beat up because they don't have enough pitching. And they're out in the first round. Or there's the possibility they catch lightning in a bottle, and then it's like riding Velocicoaster. And we don't know if we're going to survive at the end, but man, is it going to be fun. And there's so much that could happen here in the next couple of months. And I'm telling you right now, if you would have asked me 6 months ago, do I want this? I would have said, not only do I want it, but how much money do I have to pay? And do I have to give you one of my children? And I would have picked out which one. I kind of have that child in my head. All right.
Oh, we all do. Anybody who has kids, you immediately, as soon as you said that, we went,
right.
the name flashed in.
We all know.
Yeah.
We all know. Dads know which one that they would give up to get this kind of a season. I didn't have to, though, but this is going to be a hell of a run. And I think my number one question is, what are they going to go and get? Because they need to get pitching. Scott Merkin wrote about it here as the second half is about to begin. And you have several possibilities. A lot of names are out there that they could go and get. I've seen Sonny Gray. I've seen Reed Detmers. I've seen there are other pitchers. I'm sure you have guys in mind. And then there's also the possibility, just activated and had a nice little appearance his first time out in Charlotte, Shane Smith. And like, don't forget, this guy was an all-star last year. Can he put it back together or come up and be a shot in the arm? And also, is Davis Martin going to turn it around, or is he going to fall off in the second half? And is Sean Burke really my ace? And what's Noah Schultz? That's your biggest question here. I have so much faith in the offense. Everything's about the pitching, right?
Well, that's any competitive team. That's what it comes down to, right? You always have faith in your offense, because if you don't have good position players, you're not in this position anyway. But the pitching is going to be a huge key. And one of the things I don't think they're going to be in a position to do is go out and expend a lot in terms of the trade market to get into a bidding war for someone. And the rentals that are out there it's not great. It's not a great list. I mean, honestly, as I kind of look at who's going to be the unrestricted free agents, Foster Griffin of the Washington Nationals kind of stands out, and he's a nobody, but he's on a heater coming back from overseas. There's the Jacob Gonzalez trade, I think, gave them a little less ammunition, but it was an important trade, and one that I think Chris Getz was really, really canny to make, considering what he was able to then do in the draft. And I don't fault him for it, but I don't think that they're in a position to sit there and say, okay, we're going to give up on Hagen Smith to go out and get a starting pitcher that's a little bit more established, or we're going to give the Red Sox a lot of, minor league capital for Aroldis Chapman or something like that. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see them get some stuff that bolsters the back end of it. I think we're going to have to find out whether or not Davis Martin is an ace, whether or not Shane Smith can come back. Clearly he was hurting. Whether or not he can come back and be not just a contributor, but as good as he was last year. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Noah Schultz. I think that guy's
a project, unfortunately. And they're going to keep giving him starts, because in the long term, that's going to be a real thing they're going to have to figure out. You want the long-term development of this player, right. But if you're in September and you're trying to make it, does he remain as a starter every day, or are you replacing him?
I think you're skipping him in the rotation. When guys need to be skipped, I think that's going to be Noah Schultz. And it is going to be interesting to see, too, if anybody else from Charlotte can come up and contribute in the rotation. I mean, Tanner McDougal.
He's going to be a bullpen guy. I'm telling you right now, they moved him to the bullpen, and their intention with McDougal is that once they are comfortable with him understanding bullpen mentality, which I think he's already kind of taking to in the few appearances that he's had, you're going to see him up. And there's a possibility. I mean, never forget in 05, Bobby Jenks didn't even get here till the second half. That they had tried everything to find a closer. There's a possibility you got him at the back end of your rotation, and they find that guy that they can use in big moments, because Sir Anthony Dominguez, I don't think anybody has any faith in, and I don't think anybody has real faith in anybody at the back end of this rotation right now. He may be the savior that you're not expecting that actually gets here and helps you.
Yeah, it's someone's going to emerge, and with McDougal.
Here's what I think. I think Shane Smith gets here and contributes. I think Noah Schultz at some point is taken out of the rotation. I think McDougal shows up and becomes a back-end rotation guy. And I think that they go out and they make at least one trade, if not two, to add pitching. They're going to add one guy to their rotation. And I think that they may go get a guy like Aroldis Chapman. And then you combine it with McDougal and everybody else moves down. Now suddenly you've got a bullpen ready for the postseason. Okay? Yeah. Because Sir Anthony Dominguez is good when he's not in that role. And so, I mean, like, you could see everything. That's really what they want to do. They just need to bump a few guys down. They need to bump a few guys further down in the rotation. They need to bump a few guys down further from the back end of that bullpen. The question is, what are you going to have to give up? And they know there's a limit to what they'll give up because there is so much ahead for this team over the next decade that you cannot say we're putting every chip in right now and killing the next 5-6 years. And I don't think Chris Getz and his group will do that. Moose Vinyl is an application for record collectors to manage their record collections, buy and sell them. It's available on iPhone, coming to Android very soon. And Moose Vinyl is a newer, streamlined app designed for collectors that allows importing CSV files from other platforms to manage collections and is already being praised as having the best user interface around. If you collect records, you got to have Moose Vinyl. And they now have a brick and mortar record store for you to experience. Visit Moose Vinyl in Lamont, downtown at 238 Main Street. They're selling turntables and vintage audio equipment at a discount through the end of this month. And I'm sure they'll have more specials after that. They're very excited. They took over like a record store that had been in the community for a while. They have slowly transitioned it into their brick and mortar. So now the name has been officially changed to just Moose Vinyl. Congrats to those guys. Things are going very well for them, and we appreciate them supporting the show. What do you think about all that, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's all they're going to acquire. If Chris Getz goes out and gets anything, it's going to be pitching. And I'm not expecting him to do a lot, though. I don't think it's going to be a splash. I've seen some names. I brought up Aroldis Chapman, but I don't think the Red Sox are trading him unless they really, really fall off. And what's hard is that when you look at the teams that are doing poorly, part of the reason why they're doing poorly is because they have no bullpens. So there's not a lot of rental closers that are toiling right now. So the question becomes, is there somebody that is out there that is closing games that is, at least affordable for Chris Getz to go out and say, I'm going to add this payroll and I'm going to add it for next year. And what do they have that they're willing to part with down in the minor leagues? And I think there's going to be stuff. I mean, they've got a lot of talent down there. There's going to be guys that they can part with. But I really do think that because they're balancing, development for the future and the fact that they're competing this year, I do think that what you're going to see in the month of July leading up to the deadline is you're going to see guys shuttling up and down. And some guys are going to get some tryouts here where they're going to see, okay, can we replace this guy in the rotation? And, whoever this guy is, can we stop doing openers for Eric Fetty, for example? And can Fetty take over, a bulk relief role that we kind of had Sean Newcomb doing? Can Newcomb then turn around and close for us?
I really believe in him.
That.
I keep forgetting about him. He's been so good in the first half.
Yeah. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of movement with the pitching staff. And some of it could come across, the pessimist will come across as saying, okay, they don't have enough talent there. They need to go out and get guys. I think some of it's going to be Will Venable and Chris Getz saying, we've got a lot of guys actually, and we're trying to figure out who fits in the best spot.
We need to change some of the roles. We need to tell people that thought they were one thing that they're another thing, and maybe it is Newcomb that's got to be it, or like I said, McDougal. They may have a lot of internal options. I do think that they're going to make a move, though. I think that they need to make a move. They need to bring in somebody just to make that locker room feel like they believe in them. Okay, but then again, don't upset that group. Every time somebody talks about that group, they're like, it's like a college locker room, and these kids respond for the way that the team feels. Rock Chalowski just drafted, even though his name was read wrong by the commissioner of baseball, because the commissioner of baseball doesn't actually care about baseball. So he didn't even know who the consensus number one player was. He didn't even know how to pronounce his name. I mean, it's just he's an embarrassment. But I mean, like, that's everybody running Major League Baseball is an embarrassment. I mean, a lot of the owners are embarrassments. A lot of the big names that you're going to see in this labor strife are embarrassments, just personal embarrassments to themselves. And then they're bad at their jobs. And that was terrible. I didn't get a chance to dive into it. I know everybody else did, but I just need to throw it out there. But Rock Chalowski said he fell in love with this team because of the way the locker room is. So definitely don't change that. And before we get to the Sox nerd, real quick, what a draft. And not just because James Fox was texting me while I was in the parks and we were talking about it, and we'll get him back on at some point to talk about these guys. Not just because I was afraid when I saw that the Tomei kid was drafted. I was like, oh my God, did we waste a pick on just one of our favorite guys' kids. No, he deserved to be picked in that. He deserved right. And baseball, but really because Baseball America comes out and says the White Sox got 3 first-round picks if you pay attention to it. Because you have all these major scouts. I mean, Jim Callis from MLB. I mean, all these guys, they're all saying this was the best draft class. And it gets set up by the deal with Jacob Gonzalez going to Pittsburgh to get the extra pick because it gives them more money. And they're able to then sign Chalowski under slot, but still give him $1 million more than any other signing. People constantly question going into this thing. I want to say it was Bob Nightingale, but there were several people out there like, well, he'll just wait till he gets to the Giants, okay? Or they won't be able to pay him enough, right? They gave him more money than any other draft pick has ever gotten in the Major League Draft. And by $1 million, still got him under slot, use the extra money. They're grabbing all these prep arms and guys that they're able to get in the later rounds because they're able to give them over $1 million and go over slot with them because of the move they made with Pittsburgh. And it was just a brilliant strategy that you don't see a lot of teams doing. That was an outside-the-box thing that I would have never have thought my team was capable of doing. And I know we only got a couple minutes here, but oh my goodness, incredible by the White Sox. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, what I think, looking at the trade deadline, looking at where this team is, and looking at a move like that, okay, he makes that move knowing that Landon Tomey's there. And that's the area that he's going to be selected. They clearly are looking at him as a draft pick, but also knowing that getting that extra slot, getting that extra draft capital, that extra money for a guy that's not really in your long-term plans, Jacob Gonzalez. He did a fine enough job up here to the point where he becomes an interesting trade piece. And we had talked about that before. And he basically trades Brandon Eisert for basically a guy named something else that's not Brandon Eisert, but is exactly the same dude. And what you end up with is you end up with the ability to draft Rock Chalowski. You end up with the ability to sit here and say that, we don't have to play games with drafting Jackson Flora, drafting Vaughn Lackey because we can pay them less. You have a general manager who understands how he has to play the game due to his owner. He understands how to maximize the talent that he has. He understands how to build a team, how to build an organization. Chris Getz has proven himself in this situation to understand exactly what needs to happen. So he will probably get roasted at the trade deadline for not making enough moves in a lot of people's opinions. But I guarantee you the moves that he makes, when we look at them in hindsight, will be the right move at the right time, given everything that's gone on.
That music means the Sox nerd Dave Marin is on the line with his trivia nuggets and tidbits and all the stuff he puts up on the scoreboard at the rate, and he brings even more here to Sox in the Basement each and every week. And I cannot wait to hear him talk about the All-Star game at some point. Will he mention it? It is coming to Chicago now, just announced, just not to our ballpark, but I finally have a reason to go to Wrigley other than a concert. And it's going to be the All-Star game in 2027. If they have
to see the 2027 Toronto Blue Jays.
Right. If they have it.
Right.
Okay. It'd be so dumb to have the All-Star game and we're not playing baseball midway through the year. I can't even think about it. Hopefully they figure out all their problems, these billionaires and millionaires out there. This is all brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lamont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on this weekend and beyond at lamontdowntown.com. Nerd, give it to us.
After an episode of what the great Irv Kupcinet used to call the lively art of conversation, let's get back to the Nuggets, shall we? That All-Star game was a goldmine for the old nerd. For example, the Sox mattered in this game for the first time in a long time. At one point, there were 3 Sox, Miguel Vargas, Tristan Peters, and Munetaka Murakami on the field at the same time. That hadn't happened since 1959's second game at the LA Coliseum with Sherm Lawler at catcher, Luis Aparicio at shortstop, and Nellie Fox at second base in innings 7 through 9. By the way, the Sox had a club record 4 stars on the field in both the 1953 and 1954 Midsummer Classics. Miguel Vargas's home run was a glorious moment, wasn't it? The 433-foot rocket that exited Philadelphia Citizens Bank Park at a blistering 107.3 miles an hour was the Sox third round-tripper in All-Star history and first since Magglio Ordonez went deep off the Cubs' John Lieber in Seattle in 2001. Frank Thomas hit the Sox first All-Star Game homer in Arlington, Texas in 1995 with the nerd in attendance. And that ball flew right over my head, too. Vargas's homer was the Sox first All-Star hit since Tim Anderson's single in 2022. It was the Sox first All-Star extra base hit and RBI since Paul Konerko in the infamous 2002 tie game in Milwaukee, and Vargas scored the Sox first All-Star run since Alcé Ramirez in 2014. One more on Vargas's big blast. The homer jacked the slash line of Sox third baseman Dykes, Ventura, and Vargas to 556, 600, and 1222 with a double and homer and 2 RBIs in All-Star games. Moving on, is there a better story in baseball than Tristan Peters? I've been racking my brain trying to think of out-of-nowhere Sox comps. How about Esteban Loaiza, who went from the scrap heap to All-Star starter to 21-game winner in 2003? He may be the last 20-game winner in Sox history, too. How about Shane Smith, who went from Rule 5 pick to All-Star rep to opening day starter? He's now trying to right his ship in Charlotte right now. How about Yermin Mercedes? He came out of nowhere to start 2021 8 for 8 before things went south for him. In 1982, Salome Baroas arrived from the Mexican League and notched saves in his first 5 big league appearances. He quickly morphed into a pedestrian and sometimes frustrating pitcher. Here's hoping Tristan Peters' feel-good story has more staying power. Let's put a bow on the Sox all-draftee team Ed and I kicked around on last week's pod, shall we? We had Ron Karkovice at catcher, Frank Thomas at first, Ray Durham at second, Tim Anderson at shortstop, Joe Creedy at third, Carlos May in left, Aaron Rowan in center, Harold Baines in right, and Robin Ventura the DH. The starting pitchers were Chris Sale, Jack McDowell, Mark Burley, Alex Fernandez, and Carlos Rodon, with Bobby Thigpen, Terry Forster, Rich Gossage, Scott Radinsky, Don Paul, Britt Burns, and Addison Reed in the bullpen. The bench has Jerry Hairston, Greg Norton, Mike Squires, and Josh Paul. I'd go to war with that team against anyone, especially that bullpen. Did we miss anyone? Let us know in the comments. Before I get to my stumper answer and zinger, I remind you, gems like these and more can be found on my WordPress blog, which you can find at soxinthebasement.com. I am also on X, Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. My stumper answer, I asked, whom did Big Frank top in the 1995 Home Run Derby? And it was his future teammate, Cleveland's Albert Bell. My zinger, Colson Montgomery recently played his 162nd career game. He hit 44 homers in that span, which tied Yordan Alvarez, Nick Kurtz, and Chuck Klein for the most ever by a lefty in that stretch. That's it, gents. Probably more than you wanted to know about Sox stars, draftees, and Cinderella stories.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.